All right, partner.
Yeah, we're back. It's been
3 minutes early.
Hey, I like this.
I'm
man.
banking those early starts.
We're on lawyer time. Love it.
Lawyer time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't even know where to begin here. I mean, look. See the little talking points. You know, I try to. I'm somewhat professional.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
That's the camera over here, though. You know that, right?
What?
You showed it to the computer like that was the camera. Isn't the
camera? I know, because usually
I know.
Well, when we do our regular podcast and we play to these cameras,
it
over
throws
here
me off.
And
Dude. It throws me off.
I know. I turned heads. You should turn a head this way. Howdy. Oh Christ!
I need some humor today, man.
Yeah, man. We're both having. Rocco and I both having challenging weeks.
Very challenging week. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, all positive, but comes with complexity.
Complexity is definitely what
the
I would
word
call
of the week.
it. Yeah, that is the word of the fucking week. Yes.
All right. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts of it here, let's uproot this a bit.
Okay.
We'll just go completely backwards. So apparently, there's a report today that Putin had a heart attack. His I guess guard around him found him face down. I think it was the bathroom, or it might have been around the bathroom area. But it's interesting because you would think that would be a major fucking story.
Yeah, they're not.
But there's just little blurbs coming out of.
Where's it coming from, too? That's the question. Like, where's the news
multiple news services, but it's not being, you know. So maybe there's not a lot of credence to it, but I would think if there wasn't like verifiable credence, it's enough of a. Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the most talked about people in the news for the last year and a half.
Yeah,
you think that would be.
And doesn't he have some level of cancer too? There's been talks of that. There's been talks about that.
Talks of that, like Parkinson's disease.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's
but a heart attack, cardiac. They said cardiac arrest, and he was face down. Yeah, you think
that's a big deal? Yeah,
but why is it not kind of not?
I mean, look at the rest of the world. Look what's going on in the rest of the world. I mean,
I'm not saying it should be a 20-minute expose, but it should make.
Well, no, I mean, people aren't saying it because of what's happening in the world. Like China and Russia are trying to pull. There's a lot of geopolitical things happening. I think right now.
There are. Yes, there are.
Having someone like Putin, you know, a story about him having a heart attack is going to call into question a lot of the things that are happening, or a lot of the because I mean, we're headed down a dark path. I think. Maybe we need.
I'm a little more optimistic. I think.
I'm usually the optimist
in
this duo, but I think that we don't have strong leadership.
That was true.
We haven't handled these situations that well.
Well, the person in there is very feeble, and he was
on the fucking beach,
being propped up by his handlers.
Yeah.
To this point, though, to their credit, there have been some moves I think personally that have been made by Blinken and some of his advisors. That they've staved off World War III to this point.
I agree. I would give them credit for that. Absolutely.
And I think that while I'm not a big proponent of telling Israel how to defend themselves, I do think a rush to the military option. I think they're preparing for that, maybe, but I'm hoping that there's some other stuff happening behind the closed doors, and eventually some of the hostages will get freed. Okay, let's start with this.
Okay.
Does it seem a bit odd to you that there is a handful, and I don't mean like one or two, I think there's 9 or 10 or more U.S. citizens that are part of this hostage group?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like our reaction to it is as fierce as prior circumstances when our people in group are taken.
I agree.
Like, why are we not considering going in unilaterally to get our people?
Think of what that would do. Think about. Take the emotion out of that decision, and zoom out and think about that. Right, we've done that in the past. There has been conflicts on 3 or 4 other or 2 or 3 other areas, right? It's been like, hey, fiercely going to get the hostages, get them out. Here we have the Russia-Ukraine war. We have talks about China taking Taiwan. We have shit breaking out in the Middle East, and we have 9 hostages. I think absolutely we should be getting them, but the response has to be tactical.
So here's where oh no, you're absolutely right. I concede. The only little difference is it isn't like it's a world superpower who took them. There are other players in the periphery, but if Russia did this or China, I agree. our response initially has to be measured based upon the potential opponent there. We're talking about Hamas.
I don't think we understand the opponent well enough. That's the problem.
Well, then shame on us after 9/11 brought Islamic fundamentalist terrorism to us. We haven't figured out like some responses to that. I mean,
well, I don't know. There's so many. There's so many angles to this. I mean, there really is, and I don't even know what to think anymore when it comes to this stuff, because we should. The fact we didn't see the terror attack coming is the first issue. Like,
no one.
How did we not see that massive of an attack coming? I don't know. Is that a failure in the intelligence? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a military person. Like, I don't know, and I wouldn't pretend to be. But I think there's a lot of things there's so many uncertainties right now. And that's why I think we have to think through every possible scenario before we take action. That's why I think they're halting Israel's ground invasion, because they're really thinking through 10 moves ahead.
I hope so.
I mean, I truly believe that's what's happening. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think in this situation, we could be on the brink of a major world war. I'm not saying we are, but I mean, if things go wrong or go sideways, that could happen. There's so much going on in the world right now. And we, in my opinion, are the weakest we've been weakest we appear as a nation in decades.
Yes.
Not saying we are weak. I mean, our military is the best there is, and we have the most advanced weapons, right? But we appear to the world.
We also are positioned strategically around the world with that military.
Correct.
We seem to forget that at times too. Yes, but the messaging we're sending out to the rest of the international community is not always that.
When our president is on the beach 2 days ago.
He's on the beach. He's feeble and he does not. But to his credit, like the way they've handled him to this point. And look, there's always going to be nuances that the Republicans aren't going to like. Enough hatred is being sent toward Iran. I get all that, but I always temper all that too, because it's easy for a politician, especially a federal politician like that, to have an opinion on a hawk or a dove, right?
Sure.
Democrats usually doves, Republicans generally hawks, but the people that I trust the most are those high level executive officers within the administration or within each military branch, their strategy folks. Those are the professionals. Yes, the president has to make the final decision,
right?
But I trust those folks, man.
I agree.
They don't let us down.
No,
they just don't.
No, I completely agree with that.
Maybe that's why I'm a little more optimistic that, I always think too, that by the time the public gets the information, Rocco, on something that happened, we are hopefully 2 or 3 steps ahead of that as to the next play.
Yeah, I agree.
Like in hostage negotiation, maybe things are happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to, and for good reason.
Right, we shouldn't be privy to those things that are going on. We shouldn't be privy to strategy, right? We should be getting it, 3 days later when we've already executed on something.
You would think,
yeah, but again, I mean, there is just so much uncertainty right now in the world and all these conflicts going on that it's really hard to understand what's actually going on.
Yeah. And and for the American public, there's fear because no one likes to talk about World War III, but there's also other things that subject us, when they toss around 100 million here, 500 million here, a couple more billion here. It's all funny money to the public, I think. I'm not saying it really is, but
someone's got to pay it back.
No, I'm not saying in reality it is, but I say that we're now conditioned to interpret it as funny money because it's not, to the average American, maybe me included, it's not reality. Like, it doesn't affect me. You see what I mean? In theory, if I work it through, I can probably get there where it frustrates me, but I think it's too easy for most people to throw their hands up. I can't do nothing about it anyways. And they're going to spend what's another 100 million here, 100 million there. We got to support Israel. We need to support, this one and the other. So I get it, but I don't really get it.
I agree.
And that's a problem.
Well, again, I mean, because we give away money so freely for so many things, stupid domestic programs we have to international, spending. It is funny money because it's like, oh, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Like $1 billion is a lot of freaking money.
It's incredible.
But we get, $6 billion to Iran. It's crazy to me that, we as the public can't see the issues with all this.
Yeah.
Like it's not real to us. Doesn't sit close enough to us.
Yeah.
So we can't conceptualize what it really is.
Would you agree that most of the public is probably perplexed because the appearance seems to be that we are playing footsie with the devil, and our country keeps doing it decade after decade in the want that, oh, they're going to change and they're going to be better, or a new leader, or the public will have an uprising and overturn. We have been waiting for Iran to become anything but a terror state for fucking 5 decades now. And every president, kicks the can down the road, and if it's not happening on my watch, then that's for the next guy to worry about. At some point in time, we have no one to blame for Iran's current threats to us but ourselves. And just my opinion. But
yeah, I mean,
we took out Iraq with no clearly identifiable threat. It turns out there wasn't a mass weapons threat there. But boy, that money might have been a hell of a lot better spent, and lives as well, with maybe handling Iran back then as opposed to Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, I mean, there's so many avenues to that, right? And it's I'm not an expert on
I'm not either
geopolitical conflict or military strategy, but I do think there is some credence to what you're saying. I agree.
So what's your gut opinion? Like, does your gut tell you that Iran is going to attack us or attack our interests, or do you think it's all bluster? Because a lot of what they've done over the years has ultimately become bluster, and they'll go behind the shadows and fund things, right?
So that's a good question. So I tend to think that if anything, it'll be in the shadows, because if they really come out and try and attack, like, don't poke the bear. Like, we may look weak because of our administration, but end all be all, like, our military is the strongest there is, and you fuck with them, like, they'll unleash hell. Like, let's just be real. I mean, that's kind of how Israel is, right? Like, it's kind of how Israel is. Like, they don't provoke, but you provoke them, then they're going to try and flatten you. Like, that's their mentality.
And what you just said leads me to the next issue. What you just said is, they don't provoke.
Right. At least in my opinion.
They were attacked by fucking terrorists.
Correct. Yeah.
And we have a collection of Americans, although I do believe it's a very small percentage, but they get the most noise and they make good copy. So they're on the news in various major city streets, and obviously in a lot of rather prominent higher end educational centers, thus known as universities. Lots of demonstrations, a lot of pro Hamas, not pro Palestinian. That's a guise. It's pro Hamas. So you have a collection of Americans who actually, for whatever reason, have decided, cognitively decided, that I'm going to go out and visibly support in a militant fashion the rights of these terrorists to keep on fucking the Israeli people.
Because they don't know any better, and the problem is, look, and I've said this before with different issues, right? People want to feel validated, and they feel validated by being an opposition force, right? Like, then they stand out, then they're heard, then their opinion matters, or even whether it's right or wrong, or it's an opinion is vehemently opposed. Like, if everybody's siding with Israel, right? Like, but if you're on the opposite side of that, now you stand out from the crowd, right?
Okay.
And you draw attention. It's an ego, in my opinion, because I mean, again, like, I don't know enough in-depth information about the history of all of this stuff. I just know what I see, and I know what I read, and I know what I watch, and I know what I hear. And to support a terrorist organization, to me, is you're seeking attention. Do I think these people truly support terrorism? No. I think they just don't know any better. They got some soundbite from someone, and it resonated with them. And they're like, yeah, like, fuck Israel. Like, this is bullshit. Like, and they just latch on to something. Take any major issue. You're always going to find people that find the soundbite, that latch onto it, and become the opposition force because they get noticed and they stand out and they get validated somehow. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong. That's how I see it.
I can't argue with any of that. I mean, and I think inside I know that to be true.
Yeah,
it's just infuriating.
Absolutely.
That some of my fellow Americans, again, I think it's a very small percentage.
I agree.
I mean, Israel's been our only true ally in the region forever, and the only democracy in the Middle East.
I've been there. I mean, it's a beautiful country.
My
people
wife,
are great.
My wife flies there twice a month to Tel Aviv, as she used to.
Yeah,
no longer. But I just feel disheartened that we would legitimize brutal and some of the most brutal things that happened to the Israeli people here just in the past 3 weeks. It's nuts to me. Like, how can you, how can any American, any decent human being for that matter, justify someone going into somebody's home, someone's country, entering illegally, taking babies, taking them out in a public display, slicing the babies' heads off? How could you consciously then defend these people?
I don't think they even know what they're doing. That's the problem. I don't think there's a conscious thought that that's what they're doing. I think they think that's propaganda. I know what I'm saying, but I've heard people say that's just propaganda. That didn't really happen. That was all made up. And again, because we live in a society right now where it's very hard to discern what is true and what is not. Like, think about it. You can get AI to create a deep fake, right? Like, think about where we are in society with technology, right? I could literally create a deep fake of myself. Same voice, same body, same everything, make a video of him saying the most horrendous shit. And people could believe that's me. So people take that mentality and apply it to everything. Is this real? Did that really happen? Are they just trying to create propaganda to get people to side with Israel, to start World War III, for defense contract? There's so many theories out there, right? Like, it's a money play. The defense contractors, there was no wars under Trump. We need wars now because defense contractors aren't making any money, and their money's in the politicians' pocket, and they need to start conflicts so they make money. There's so many theories, right? No one knows what to believe anymore. There's no truth.
Yeah, but I would say that you have an act, you have a act of terror.
Yeah,
it doesn't take more than a couple of weeks to start vetting out what actually happened or didn't actually. Was it rumor? Was it
right?
fake?
But what does that take? What does that take? Like you said before, critical thinking.
Yeah, well, people
don't do that anymore. That's why they can't discern.
So we've had multiple. So let me unwind this a bit. So we've had the UN. We've had multiple nations go in and verify the investigation that was done at those locations.
Sure.
It's out for the world to see.
Correct.
That is not proof to these people that it was done.
Okay.
They think that that's fake. Like, at what point do we reach intellectual depravity? Where do we get to the point where
we're there?
We're there. No logic will matter to these people.
If people are taking those types of stances, I think they're past that point.
So do we enter? Let me ask this question. It's probably not for suited for this discussion tonight, but based upon what you're saying, then we can enter into a conversation of fanatical religious organizations who go for their written beliefs over anything they encounter in the real world, right? Because in that situation, their fanatical belief, if it doesn't jive with what they're seeing in their own eyes, then that must be all wrong. And that what's in that book is telling me to hurt other people is the only justifiable thing.
To some people, I mean, that's what religion is to some people, right? I mean, think about it.
Yeah, it's unsettling.
I mean, a lot of this is unsettling because, again, we all have our own beliefs, right? We come with our preconceived notions and beliefs, and we view the world from that lens. Other people view it from different lenses, and I don't know that lens because I've never looked through it, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. I can just tell you what I think and what I see from my perspective. And I think the people that are supporting these organizations or pretending to support these organizations just don't know any better and are doing it for the attention of it.
Yeah.
Because if you really break it down and find out that it is true, everything that happened, like, would they really support those organizations?
Well, I'll carry that's a great segue. So there was
good at segues tonight, man.
You are. I'm doing more talking than I usually do on
this. That's fine. I like it.
Episode.
I'm spent.
So there was a Hamas. I shouldn't say Hamas. I'm sorry. There was a Palestinian hospital that supposedly, we're all told, was bombed. Meanwhile, the Israeli intelligence brought out right away almost that they suspect pretty much that it wasn't an errant bomb of theirs. It certainly wasn't an intentional bomb, but if it would, they weren't even thinking it was an errant bomb. Their intelligence was leading them to believe that it was an errant Hamas bomb, and it landed in the parking lot.
Right.
And we don't really know how many people were actually affected. I'm sure there were some. After all of that came out, and the world consensus has been since then that it was a Hamas errant bomb.
Yep.
We even have Congress people in this country who will not believe what is pretty much consensus now that it was not Hamas. So I mean, it's this congressional Tlaib and a few of the other one. They hate the Israeli people. Their hatred of the Israel is so visible that person is serving in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah. They were elected by people.
They were shown proof that they were wrong. I mean, from all different angles. The consensus is, the world consensus is, what they said was incorrect. They're going to die on that fucking hill.
Yeah.
I mean, if that is not a wake-up call to voting populace in this country, regardless of your party,
you would hope so.
You can't, regardless of your bent, why would you elect somebody that cannot change their opinion at all, even when there's life and death at stake?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think there can be a counter argument to that, right? Not saying that if they're believing it's fake,
there's always a counter argument.
What I'm saying is, like, we're again, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I understand.
There's so much technology in AI right now, they can make anything look real
initially.
But define initially.
Well, until it starts to get vetted out.
So who's vetting it out? Like who's
multiple nations, the UN.
But unless
are they all in on it?
Right? But what I'm saying is, but I'm not saying they're in on it. Like, let me play this out. I'm saying, unless you're there when it goes off, right? You're looking at video evidence of something that happened.
Okay.
From multiple angles, from multiple streams. Video evidence can be manipulated any way, in any direction.
I don't think they're thinking about that deeply. What I think
I'm just saying, like,
they're just in denial.
I'm not saying they are.
They don't want to admit that they're wrong.
Oh, that's always the problem. But what I'm saying is we have to, like, if we're going to argue this out and play this out, like, we have to look at it from all angles. I'm not giving credence to what they say. I'm just saying, unless you are, the truth now is seeing it with your own eyes, like in person, like that's where we are with technology, right? Unless I see it with my own eyes, if I have some inkling of not believing it, like, it's going to be hard for me to believe something I see on video. It can be manipulated.
I understand. So
I've watched deep fake videos that I thought was a person.
I've seen
shit. Like, what the hell?
I know, but again, this is and it's not for a conversation tonight. As a matter of fact, we're going to touch on this briefly when we all get together again very shortly here in a couple days. But it goes back to our initial question we have bounced around on the Eric McKenna project for the past year-ish now.
Okay.
That with all the manipulation and video and the presentation and the quick delivery, are we entering an era where we're not going to be able to make decisions anymore with any type of certainty? Are the icon things we looked at in life the benchmarks of certainty, the iconic pillars of what we thought were certain? Because we need that to maneuver.
Yeah.
If we're losing all of that, we may be eventually crippled into indecision as a species. Think about that.
I mean, potentially. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Not uniformly, but there'll be pockets of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are always going to be pockets of indecision, right? I mean,
real indecision, like not being able to function daily because nothing that I see can be believed. If you're saying to me that everything, that truth is subjective in the eyes of a lot of humans now because they don't trust what they see, their reality, because they feel like it can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Then where does that lead to?
Right. What I'm saying is that piece, right, of we don't know what's real or not, is going to allow people, when their instinct is telling them something, to validate their instinct.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. It's not like there are certain things I believe, like, that's just how it is. Like, that is my truth, whether I believe it or not. But if there are things I'm like, this doesn't seem right to me, this doesn't make sense to me, I have more reason to question it now. I have more reason to say, maybe my instincts are, if I'm feeling this way, maybe this isn't the case because it can be manipulated so easily.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Okay.
20 years ago, things couldn't be manipulated. So when you saw, you're like, yeah, I guess.
You're so right.
Your instinct was like, okay, then maybe someone was lying in the background, right? You had a bad feeling about something, but the video or the image of it wasn't manipulated. Now, when my instincts are like, that just doesn't look right or seem right.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that we just went through a worldwide pandemic, which a lot of the things we've been told have been...
They're skeptical of fucking everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm just not saying that and again, you would think generally a healthy amount of skepticism could be really healthy for society.
Yeah.
But the fear that everything's a lie that's coming your way and not knowing what to believe in, that extreme at some point in the future could not be healthy either.
Well, listen, man, I'm just waiting for the time travelers to come back and tell me.
Maybe they're already here, dude.
I've watched videos where they say they are.
That's right. I love this, man. I am converting this guy. Oh yeah, he was
no conversion, man.
You were the ultimate skeptic when you first sat at this table.
I'm more open-minded.
I
can change your mind. That's the point of human nature, right? The point of being alive is to have an open mind.
Little green men.
I mean, they're here, dude.
They're
here. Let's just be real.
They got them in cages,
here.
Man. Okay. I do want to touch on briefly about how, because this does tie into the whole Israeli. I wasn't going to say Israeli-Palestine confrontation. It's an Israeli-Hamas confrontation. Is what I believe it is. It was never more apparent to me than the last couple of days and doing some reading and watching a few things that now more than ever, the fear of bad actors / potential terrorists coming through the southern border that fear is greater than ever right now.
Yeah.
And it may be too late. They may have already come through. Can we actually have a country if we don't define our borders?
It's hard to do. Because to me, you got to have defined borders to be a country. Like, I think in the scary part about, and I watched this, I can't remember, it was one politician or like an analyst, they were talking, I can't remember where I saw them, but they were talking about the open borders, and they said, we're worried about what's going to happen now. We should be worried about what's going to happen 5 years from now, because the borders are open now, and people are going to come. It's going to be just like 9/11. We're going to be comfortable again. Things are going good. The stock market was up. The tech bubble's here. Then all of a sudden, shit happens in our own land. They said this. I think it was an analyst I was watching. They said that's what we should be concerned about. Not what's going to happen in the next 12 months. What's going to happen 36 to 60 months from now, when everything's back to normal and we think the world is good and we're all copacetic. The people are letting in now. They're just laying in wait. Like, that's the scary shit. Like, how the fuck do we not close the borders?
Yeah, I think
we're not saying keep people out. Like, there's a process to go through. Right.
Well, I'm saying keep them out initially, and that meaning that you just can't unabashedly walk into the country.
Right.
You can't be. I think the open border mess, it's
bullshit.
And the open border philosophy that Joe Biden has had in this presidency will go down as the linchpin to provide him what will ultimately be the absolute worst presidency ever. And because I believe that him wanting, like a want to have the borders open, a want of his, whether it's to feed the Democratic voting rolls eventually, whatever the big picture is, his want for people to come in unabashed on here into this country, and the terrorism that may happen because of that. That will be his legacy. That he will be known as the person who made America less secure. That made America that permitted the implementation of terror cells into this country. That's what I think his legacy will be. It may be 15, 20 years before it actually happens. But I think that will be his legacy. Nothing else that he has done or tried to do will matter, because he would have fucking made us. He would have made us basically victims.
His whole family's corrupt. Like, that's what's going to be left known. I mean, what you're saying is true, but I think his legacy is going to be the corruption we've uncovered and continue to uncover.
I don't care about his brother stealing shit. I care about like terrorists coming in down the southern border.
I understand that, but I'm saying, but where we ran this guy as the, he's the safe choice. Like and they're crucifying Trump for all this shit when this dude's the most corrupt. His entire family's fucking corrupt.
I agree.
Did you see the report yesterday? The dude, his Frank Biden, his. Did
you see the check?
Well, that's a whole different story. I'm saying Frank Biden's picture was on this like gay dating site, and he claimed, "Oh, my phone was hacked 5 years ago. That's why that picture's still on the website." Now, if you hack someone in the Biden family's phone, the only thing you're going to do is take a shirtless picture and put it on a website like that, or you're going to do other shit. It's like all they do is lie. Like, to me, it's like no one gives a shit if you're on that website.
Right.
Just be fucking truthful. To me, the legacy I see with this is you want any president to succeed. This is our country, right? I wanted Biden to succeed.
You certainly
this
did.
is our fucking country.
You were very clear about that before.
But it's like, it's been nothing but constant lies. And it's like, what the fuck? At least I knew with Trump, he didn't say all the right shit. He just said what he fucking thought. Whether he was right or wrong, it was actually what he thought. Mm-hmm. It was actually what he perceived. It was actually what he saw and wanted to do. Whether he was right or wrong is a different story. Biden, it's like everything that comes out of that family's mouth is a fucking lie.
It's like I should know the answer to this question because it's so illogical, but the things that I see, like when the push was to defund the police, you and I sat across this table and all the other social issues, and we kind of realized that policing in certain part of the countries needed work. We needed to do some things and make it better. Absolutely. But to defund the police across the country was the craziest thing imaginable.
It's the stupidest thing I've heard in my 46 years.
Well, letting the borders just let people come in and out, that's up there too for me.
That's fucking stupid too. Like,
right. But we should not have to spend mental energy trying to figure out maybe we're wrong.
No.
Like, I mean, it's so asinine that I spent time going, man, am I just I mean, I start questioning myself because it's so obvious to me.
Yeah.
That's a horrific thing to do to the citizens of the country.
I will never question that in myself. Like, to me, that is just fucking stupidity. Like, defund the police. Like, every profession.
Okay in many cities now. Shoplifting, you can shit on the street. You're fine.
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, these are things that, like, basic civil society, the average person would say that shouldn't be allowed. Of course, that's not allowed. Like, we're in weird times, strange times.
Yeah, you should say, of course, you shouldn't be able to take a shit on the streets. Like, that's like kindergarten. Like,
or take things out of a store.
Yeah, like, hey,
and not be prosecuted.
Don't poop in public on the fucking street. And hey, like, that's not yours. Don't take it. One of the 10 commandments. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, like, I think the pandemic fucked all of us up to a certain extent.
It just fucked up some worse than others.
Well, correct. Yes. But I think we all had this, like, this mental breakdown at one level or another. I had it. We all had it. It's like, for a moment there, I started questioning reality. Like, what the fuck is real? And I'm a logical thinker. Like, I like to think I'm intelligent. I'm pretty level-headed. I can think through most problems. When I got to the point where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, that's when I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a person who I like to think stays level-headed and can think through most things, when I get to that point, I know we're fucked. Like, we've been through so much mental turmoil in the past 3 years, right? The people have just fucking lost their minds. They don't know what to believe anymore. They don't know what to think anymore.
We have elevated the importance of humans' feelings.
Yeah.
And we are leading our lives with our feelings at the forefront of everything. And so that one change has upset so much of the order, the appropriate and necessary order for our safety, for a lot of things. That order is constantly pushing back on this, and it's losing. Our traditional order of things is losing, and we have elevated and we've become a softer society. I think we've probably become a weaker society.
Absolutely.
And if we and heaven forbid we let this feelings first mentality ebb into our military, we're fucking done.
100%. The feelings first. Like, I understand people have feelings, right? That's okay. You can feel things, but we need to get back to a point where we can address issues head on. We can talk about things. We can fucking confront other people about shit. Like, that's the way I look at things, right? And we've lost the ability because we're so concerned about people's feelings. Feelings and facts don't mix, right? There's factual things and there's the way I feel about it. Your feelings, okay, like I understand you have feelings, but if I have a problem with you, I'm going to address it, whether your feelings affect me or not. I don't care. Like, if I have an issue, I'm going to address it with you. I'm going to confront you with it. That's how we solve problems. But instead, we've got to this point in this country. We walk on like eggshells around issues and dance around things, and we can't just address them head on, where 99.9% of the problems that can be solved with just confronting the issue calmly and collected, and you can solve it. 100%. Instead, it's like, well, I don't want to upset someone's feelings. If their feelings are upset, that's their problem, not yours, right? If I say something to you that I have a problem with and it upsets you, whose problem is that? Yours, not mine. We need to get back to that and be okay with it. Fuck your feelings, man.
It's a really elemental change to give us some order and some structure and some and order is not a dirty word.
Mm-hmm. No,
for the love of God. I mean, if you feel societal order, if you really feel this out there, some of you probably do. If you feel societal order is a bad thing, you really don't know what societal disorder looks like.
That's exactly. I mean, that is completely right. I mean, that's completely right.
Because it starts with you wanting to tear the police down, and the first time you need the police and they're not there for you, then you really start to understand the consequences of societal disorder. And I'm pretty sure that's not what you want.
No, and again, I think just people put too much credence on others' feelings, and that's, you can, right? You can care.
Some do.
You can care about people's feelings. It is,
we care too much.
Well, that's the problem, right? We definitely care too much. And in my opinion, we need to get back to being a society that's okay with confrontation.
Well, the thing is too, how about this? In the before times, pre-95, let's just go there. I would like to think that most decent civil people want other people to feel great and don't want to go out and hurt other people.
Sure, right.
But we've now moved to the point where now it's not allowed. Okay. You're not allowed to hurt other feelings. We're even going to try to legislate so you won't offend people anymore. What I'm saying is, we all seen the maneuver fine 30 years ago, really. But I would think most decent humans wouldn't go out of their way to hurt other people's feelings. Feelings matter, but they didn't rule how we maneuvered. Now, feelings are at the forefront of fucking everything.
Because people want
from our you're an attorney, you're dealing with employment law. Half of the employment laws created over the past decade or so are fucked. Completely fucked.
Yeah, right.
Your identity and who you are and what you believe and your pronouns and all that minutia bullshit.
Yeah.
And your feelings about it have gotten elevated to the point where the idea of a company is to make money to grow.
Yeah.
That is secondary. Yeah. It's not a fucking charity. Life is not a charity.
No,
our government is not a charity.
Right. Exactly.
Right. The world doesn't move that way.
No, and that's the thing. Life is not meant to be easy. Like life is like, there's overcoming adversity is what makes life pretty cool.
No, we want to legislate adversity out of our lives.
Right. Everybody wants things to be easy. Everybody wants to
and peaceful and kind.
And they want to hide behind screens, and they want to, validate themselves by, attacking other people.
It's old. It's fucking old. It's old.
Fucking normal.
It's old. It's as old like me.
Yes, exactly. It's just like
old. Just tired. Tired as fucking bullshit.
It's like, well, I think the rise of social media gives people this voice now. They can hide behind a screen. They can
can
feel important, and they can attack other people when if they see a person face to face, they don't even know how to address people anymore. We've lost that as a society, the way to communicate and to do it in a cordial way. And yes, considering people's feelings, but being able to address issues as they come. Like we've lost that ability.
1,000%. All right, let's end this show a little bit with let's talk about old Trumpy for a second here. So here's, as a moderate conservative and definitely someone that's not on board at all with this current Democratic administration. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not voting Democrat under any circumstances at all. I won't even consider it. There might be some. I will share this with you. There may be some positions that I won't vote for, period, because I don't like either candidate, and that's my fucking right. But I won't vote for a Democrat unless one just appears miraculously and really resonates with me, which so far, what they're towing this woke line bullshit and everything else that the Democratic platform is, I'm not in. That being said, Trump, let me ask you this. The Republicans this coming election, and for most instances, should be a slam dunk on many, many fronts. Presidency, the Senate races, the House races.
You would think.
Yeah,
you would.
But leave it up to the GOP, the grand old party. Leave it up to them to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
You got a guy who supposedly is leading the vote for presidency. Our former president. This got all kinds of problems, and we can argue all day. And I do believe that a lot of these lawsuits were certainly thrown on him and weren't justified. But he also can't keep his mouth shut. So you have all that sitting here, and now you have a speaker of the leadership, the very narrow Republican leadership in the House, who can't even tie their shoes. They can't elect a speaker. And at a moment that we happen to be on a war front or potential war front, it's not sending a message to the rest of the moderates in the country. And that's who they have to appeal to, the moderates. It's like, this should be the biggest slam dunk in history, the biggest. And I got a feeling that I think the Democrats are going to retain power. I just got a feeling, man. They shouldn't. But I think they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see who pulls ahead as frontrunners in both parties. I mean, there's so much uncertainty right now. I mean, there really is. There's so much uncertainty, and I mean, and the GOP cannot get their shit together. The fact that we can't elect a speaker is just completely asinine, in my opinion.
Okay, so without getting into the individual players there, can you speak a little bit on why you think that is happening?
I have no idea. I wish I could. Honestly, I have no idea. Like, I don't understand how it can be this hard to elect someone to lead that chamber. I have no. I literally, I've tried to think through it. I have no idea.
Like last week, we talked a little bit about grandstanding.
Yeah, right.
It's always been around. Yep. But social media, well, and not just social media, but the idea of all the cameras now, all of the quote unquote traditional media on them. There's the illusion with some folks that they can become more important than they may actually be within the confines of Congress.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that's happening. I don't know. They're 10 minutes of fame to muck up the system. I don't know.
But okay, do that in a time we're not almost on the brink of war.
Or do that for some other issue.
Because we can't approve shit until there's a speaker of the House. I mean, we need to get our shit together as a country, as a government, which we're not doing.
There should be warning signs, and here they are.
Okay.
The warning signs, if I was sitting in Congress right now as a Republican, the warning sign that I would see is when that vote comes down for the speaker, that every single Democrat is in unison.
Yeah, right.
So my opposing party is in unison against me.
Right.
Well, we need to be in unison to make sure that we don't fracture.
We've already fractured.
I mean, really officially fractured.
Well, yeah. I mean, define officially is the problem.
Well, we're showing it officially now because we can't vote for a speaker.
We are showing it exactly. We are there. We are there. In my opinion, we are officially fractured as a party.
They are actually.
How many votes have they had? A bunch.
Oh, it's a clown show.
And they can't get a speaker.
It's
that's
an
ridiculous.
absolute clown show.
It really is.
And we can't hold it together. And it's like, is it just the amount of egos in the Republican Party?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I wish I could articulate the reason. I don't know. I cannot figure it out. I really cannot figure it out. It's just, it's one of those things where
I wish people
boggled my mind.
I wish people would pay attention. There are, I mean, even in this situation with this Representative Tlaib, who's saying the most egregious things about Jewish people, and taking the anti-Israel stance for the whole country to see, and is getting all this media attention. That a great portion of Democrats have not come out against her on this issue, not as a person, but on this issue. The rest of the country needs to see this.
Right.
But these are the people that literally, this party who believes this craziness, this woke stuff, this open border stuff, is going to work in unison to get back in and give us 4 or 8 more years of this stuff. Do you see the insanity?
Well, the one thing they're good at doing as a party is staying in unison. They won't attack each other. That's the one thing they've always been good at.
I used to think in my earlier years, Rocco, there were so many fissures and fractions within the Democratic Party. They were always kind of eating their own, but they're not now.
No, they're not.
They're not.
No, they're not. They're smart about it.
And I also, like, I don't agree that what we're seeing with Representative Getz and this little, these hardliner Republicans standing their ground. I don't believe that's true Americana and they're standing up for the. No, I do think that the essence of politics in general is to do what you possibly can positively for the citizens. That's it. Yeah. And if it ever requires compromise, even though you might have to grit your teeth and the bottom line is you're there to compromise and find solutions. You're not there to grandstand and throw attention to yourself. And I think that's what's happening on the Republican side.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Honestly, it's a shit show right now.
Yeah. One last thing before we close down. Yeah. So, and I'm sorry if I offend people. I'm in that mood today. It's not intentional.
Yep.
I read this. So there is a report by the American Security Project. Okay. And it seems, it's like I think it's a think tank, military-based think tank. I'll read this to you, Rocco. More than 2/3 of the active duty service members are within the overweight to obese ranges in the body mass index. 2/3 of active military, active duty service members.
The I understand the one issue I have with that is that BMI is so outdated.
Okay.
Like, I mean, think about it. They're using
throw half of that out. Let's just say 1/3 then. Or obese.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, I mean, that's a problem. But I mean, but you look at your height versus weight. I mean, if you're 5'8", 200 pounds, you're obese.
I guess what I'm saying is there just seems to be, number one, I'm surprised that there's a tolerance. The tolerances are what they are now in the military. Maybe that comes out of desperation. We can't get.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I think can that be a problem? Yes, I think again, this is the problem I think I have with the media. Right? They put a study out, but there's no context to it. 2/3. Okay, so what? I mean, so you're basing it on, if you look at a dude that's 5'8", 200 pounds and jacked, like 2% body fat, he's still considered obese on the BMI.
Like you.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the truth. So it's like this really, it could, be a sensationalist headline, but what is the factors behind it? Like, what's the real data behind it? Like, what are the people they tested? Like, what is their body fat, percentage is really the question I would see. Because they could be overweight or obese, but they may have a 10% body fat, which means they're pretty lean. They're just muscular. Their weight is heavier for their height.
Do you think there's any visible solution to help them to because if the candidates aren't there?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, man. I mean, I really have no idea.
I had a vet talk to me about this a year ago, and he said that, well, we're fighting different kinds of war now. We might not need as many quote unquote bodies as we have because of all the technology and how much is done with aerial assaults and all that too. But it still seems unsettling to me that there is a decrease in the amount of fit people to at least initially enter the service.
Yeah.
It's a sad commentary.
It is. It really is. It is. We're in interesting times, my friends. I love it.
I mean, I love this country. I know you do too. I mean, we're heartily. I'm not down on the country. I'm not down. I'm not really even down on our president. If he's honestly doing what he thinks is best, I just disagree on this so much.
Yep.
But I simply think that we, as citizens, can do so much better. By being kinder to the rest of our citizens, starting there. You know,
people just don't want to be kind to one another. They want to feel validated by being rude and angry towards one another. That just makes them feel special. Like when they attack other people, they feel special. That gives them some validity to who they are because they have nothing else better to do.
But wouldn't it be great if they could get that same kind of like feedback by being nice to people? Like, if the world would work in a way where you would see, the problem is though, I think, and you've said it how many times, it's like the gratification you get from doing kind things usually comes from within.
Yeah, right? It
does. It's not external.
Right.
And we lust for the external gratification, which usually comes from making a splash or being crude or being harmful to people or violent.
That's exactly it, man.
All right. Until next week.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be a better week. Hopefully we don't encounter all this nonsense.
Hopefully.
All right. As always, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.